Ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow!
So you're going to get some call-ins from, okay, you're expecting mostly cats. What if you get a call-in from, let's say, a pigeon? Or, as you well know, pigeons are actually classified as rock doves and not really pigeons. What we think of as pigeons are actually rock doves. What if you get a call-in from a rock dove? What are you going to do? Yeah, open wide. Oh, you didn't. Oh, good gosh. Here we go again. Good evening. Welcome to Basil BuddhaCat Presents. My name is David Stevens. I'm Basil's co-host, interpreter, and as Basil reminds me incessantly, chief gopher. That's gopher in the sense of G-O-F-E-R, not G-O. No, I'm not a G-O-P-H-E-R. He says it's a good thing because gophers are related to dogs fairly closely genetically, so just as well. Well, you've got Snarky behind the camera, and if you've got Snarky behind the camera, why would you not be okay with having a genetic relative of a dog as okay, we'll leave it at that. Okay, so now you wanted to okay, Basil says he wants to take some call-ins tonight. He hasn't got a guest, but he's expecting some call-ins from particularly cats who have indicated to him. He's gotten quite a few reach-outs from the cats in the neighborhood who, first of all, they were very interested in hearing about the other Basil that we had on for some shows. The other Basil who lives in Sanford, Florida, who came along with the Buddha, who I guess probably spirited him in from Sanford, Florida. And we had Basil from Sanford, Florida, who, as it turned out, much to my surprise, not to Basil's surprise, and certainly not to the Buddha's surprise, because the Buddha, I guess, knows everything. Basil from Sanford, Florida, actually lives in two separate households. One being the household of George Zimmerman's family, and the other household that he ended up living in, additionally, was the household of Trayvon Martin's dad. And there was some interesting stories that went along with that, and some interesting discussions that went along with that. But tonight, because Basil got some communications from cats that wanted some help with their own personal problems, Basil has agreed to, and Basil's mic'd up. He can't flick his ear now, I guess. You lose your mic, you flick your ear, so don't flick your ear. Your whiskers can twitch, but you can't flick your ear. So Basil's expecting some call-ins from other cats who have problems that they'd like some advice with. Now, Basil, you're 18 years old, so you've been there, done that, seen that. You've seen a lot in your day. You've met a lot of animals. You've met a lot of cats. You've had more conversations than you'd care to admit, probably, with other cats, telepathically, of course, because Basil, up until Basil friended a friend of Progressive Soup named John Kasumi, who's head of the Chinese democracy movement in America. Until Basil friended John Kasumi, Basil was not very conversant in any language, really. In fact, cats have two basic sounds, which, depending on how they're voiced and how they're intoned, account to how many? Basil says there's 982,412 words in cat language. And of course, Basil, being the grad school dropout that he is, he knows most of them, he says. He thinks there's very, very few words that he wouldn't get. But out of two particular sounds, one being and the other one being meow, depending on how they're said. Well, hey, Basil points out that look at Spanish as an indication of a language where, depending on how you inflex the voice, you're getting an answer or a statement or a question. And that's just a fact. So Basil says, if the Spanish can do it on a few words, why can't cats do it on 982,437 words? I guess. Okay, so now while we're waiting for our first call-in, and by the way, Basil, where in the world is the Basil phone? Where's your multicolored plastic phone? I mean, we usually have that for our call-ins on the show. He's flicking his whiskers, so I think he's joshing me a little bit. But he says he thinks Marty Heiser stole the Basil phone because Marty had his eye on that phone when he came to visit Basil's show. And Basil thinks, now Basil, you don't believe that. Basil says, no. He said Marty actually did ask him to borrow the phone. Basil said, when you treat your cat at home, Marty, I want to make sure I get this right because Basil is pretty insistent upon this. Says, Marty, when you treat your cat like the God that he is, then I'll think about lending you the Basil phone for your call-in show. Okay, and by the way, Marty, that is a real phone. All it needs is a wire attached to it, and it is cranked and ready to go. It's a real, honest-to-goodness phone from the halls of Nickelodeon. So, Basil, what kind of calls do you expect to get in? Okay, what kind of calls do you expect to get in? Here we go, we got a call. Hello, Basil BuddhaCat presents. May I help you? Basil, it's one of your Facebook friends, Rena. Okay, Rena, yep, we know. Basil's friended you on Facebook now for probably a couple of years. You've been friends on Facebook with him. And he says, hey, Rena, cut to the chase. What's the prob? Okay, Rena's telling me that she doesn't get enough respect in her household. She says that, wait, Rena, you're not Marty's cat, are you? Rena says no. Rena says she had an opportunity to be Marty's cat. Apparently, when Marty adopted his cat from the animal shelter, Rena was there. Marty took a look at Rena. Rena took a look at Marty. And Rena flicked him the middle claw and said, essentially, no. Okay, so Rena, you ended up in another home locally. You want to say where you live? Rena says she lives actually in Danbury. She became a part of a family in Danbury soon after she had the sagacity to flick off Marty. And she ended up with a nice family in Danbury, and that family is pretty good to her. She says she gets a lot of respect. She says that there have been, while she's been there in the household that she's living in, there have been a couple other cats that have come to live, and both those cats have mysteriously disappeared. So she's not sure. That's, I don't really think that, no. Okay. She says no. She really, honestly, she has no idea where they went to. Sometimes cats go out and they don't come back. And here's a good bit of advice. Okay, you want to bring in on that? Yeah. Basil says that's a pretty good piece of advice for any cat watching. First of all, hope that your family does not declaw you, because that's taken away all your defense. It really puts you in a very precarious position should you ever be cornered by anything, or if you should accidentally get outside, because you have no way of defending yourself. With claws, you've got yourself a good chance. So listen up, kids. Basil says, listen up, kids. Listen up, moms and dads. When you adopt a cat, do not declaw it. You can find a lot of variety of alternative means for cats to claw things other than clawing the couch or other furniture. So get your cat a scratching post, get your cat some catnip on a scratching post so it's attracted to it. Do not declaw your cats, because many cats have met their end where they're caught in a corner and they haven't got the ability to climb a tree, for instance. So they need to have that ability to climb the tree. They need to have an ability to defend themselves. So for gosh sakes, do not declaw your cat. Okay, the other thing is, in general terms, it's not a good idea. Well, you know, Basil, a lot of people do. There are a lot of cats that are outside, that do go outside. Yeah, Basil says he knows. He says those are generally referred to as feral cats. Those are cats that are out in the wild. They may be attached to a family or two or three by means of them leaving food out for the cat periodically, food and water out for the cat outside their house. And cats can do pretty well at that, but he says it's a very tough life. And in fact, here's a tip to you folks that have contact with feral cats. And okay, Basil was watching this show we had where we had Gretchen Cosgrove on talking about bats. And the subject of bats and distemper, what we call rabies, bats having distemper and being something to stay away from. And she made a very important point that something like 90% of cases of rabies between humans having contact with wild animals, not bats, 90% of it are with feral cats, wild cats. So tip to you folks that see a cat roaming around, don't touch it, because if it claws you, you've got to get rabies shots. Gretchen made a very strong point of that, that if you're clawed or bitten by a wild cat, you really, in fact, need to get rabies shots, because if you don't, and it turns out that cat was rabid, by the time you find out that you've gotten rabies, you've contracted rabies from that cat, you're gone. That it's almost impossible to survive having rabies, no matter what species. So Basil says, kids, teach your parents. Parents, teach your kids. Folks, teach other folks. Stay away from feral cats. And that leading to Basil's point that don't let your cat outside. Best place for your cat's inside. And that leads us back to the question from Rena. Rena, you had a question about how cats can get their humans to treat them with the proper respect. And Basil, you have some thoughts on that? What works for you? Basil says he's pretty much got his family wrapped around his little paw. But you've got big paws. You've got big paws. Oh, he says, okay, admittedly. But he's got his humans wrapped around his paws. And he thinks that the best thing to do is to treat your humans with a proper mix of respect and authoritarianism. He says if you can disguise authoritarianism as respect and nice treatment, then you can win over any human. Do you think that would work for Marty's cat, Basil? Because Marty was saying that he kind of snubs his cat a little bit. He doesn't pay much attention to it. He seems to think that the cat rolls its doo-doo around in its litter pan, and I think you set him straight on that. The cats do not do that, and in fact, cats leave the cleaning of the litter pan to the cat's humans. So the cats really don't have much to do with the poopsies once they're poopsied out. But so Basil, Rena's looking for some thoughts on how to gain the proper level of respect from her humans. Basil says, look, he'll come over He'll come over and visit at your request, and he'll show you exactly how it's done. Okay, Rena, is that a satisfactory answer? Okay, Rena says she may call back in during the show with a follow-up question because she's a little bit surprised by the simplicity of Basil's suggestion, but if it works, it works. Okay, thanks for calling, Rena. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Okay, now Basil, you wanted to you have that microphone attached to your ear? It says doesn't bother him. Doesn't bother him. He's been doing his Pilates, and he's got the world on a string. Okay. Oh, okay, Basil. Here's another call in. Hello, Basil BuddhaCat presents. Is that you, Lilith? Basil, I think it's Lilith. Yeah. Okay. Okay, you don't have to identify yourself, but you can go ahead. What's your question for Basil? Okay, our caller in, Basil, it's another question regarding treatment of cats in a house. This one's a little different. This is one where our caller in says there's a new kitten in the house. And she'll call him Walter. Okay, go ahead. We'll play along with you, Lil. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. She won't identify herself, but she says she's calling in because there's a new kitten in the house. And that kitten, as kittens go, is cute as a button. Now, she's not worried about her humans treating her right because they snuggle her. She said she actually, you didn't really. Okay. Our caller in, Basil, says that she let her humans, her people, know in no uncertain terms that she wasn't happy with having the new kitten in the house. And she's... Okay, go ahead. She says she let her humans know in a lot of very dignified ways, including walking away from them unprovoked and also flicking them the middle claw. Okay, yep. So you flicked your humans the middle claw. You gave them the middle claw to let them know that you weren't happy with, we'll call him Walter, in the house. Okay, are you still doing that? She says no. What happened, what worked for her is that she spent some time sequestered off in the bedroom. She made her humans bring her own personal litter pan up to the bedroom, along with her food dish, and feed her customary 3 times a day. Change the water, clean the litter pan, and she had them close the doors to the bedroom. The bathroom door, which leads into the bathroom, then into the master bedroom, and also the main door to the bedroom. She says she had her humans close her in there so she would have a quiet spot in the house, so the little rapscallion wouldn't be able to get to her. Okay? Okay, she says she also changed her customary kindness toward her humans. She's known by her humans by a couple of cute little nicknames. She says one of them is Bathroom Kitty, because she'll accompany her humans, either one of them, into the bathroom when they're going to be using their litter pan, so to speak. She'll follow them in there, and since she's there, they're sitting, they're not going anywhere, she's got a captive audience. Normally, she's been doing that. She says she stopped doing that. She wasn't going to give them the benefit of her kindness in that respect. And she also is called by her humans Undercover Kitty. Reason for that being that that at night, periodically, she'll jump up on the bed and she will go under the covers and separate her humans, keep them away from some of their activities, and snuggle with them a little bit and let them snuggle her a little bit in the middle of the night. She says she stopped doing that. Are you continuing to not do that now? No, she says she, after a couple of weeks, she felt a little more comfortable with her humans doing their best to, seeing as they weren't going to send the kitten out into the wild world. They've at least done their best in terms of treating her pretty well and giving her proper respect and letting her know that she's the queen and she's deserving of everything. And so she started to warm up to them again. She's not warmed up to that kitten yet, though. She says she's still. The kitten just annoys her incessantly. It'll run at her, and she has to lift a paw, not extending her claws, but lift a paw and swat it a little bit, and the kitten quickly runs away and goes and does something else for a while. Then eventually it'll come back and annoy her again. But she's okay with that, I guess, little by little. She's becoming used to it. But as long as the humans in her house recognize her as numero uno. Okay. So, Basil, do you have anything to add to that? Is there something that you think our caller in should be doing to establish her dominance in the house with the new cat? Okay. Basil says, as a matter of fact, he had a situation where his humans brought another cat into the house, and but the cat that his humans brought in wasn't a kitten. It was 8 years old. In fact, he says, as he recalls, that cat's name is Lilith. Okay. And Basil says he just swatted Lilith, who was 8 years old at the time, once, and Lilith understood to stay away. Matter of fact, there might be a picture of a couple of the cats that we're talking about in the opening and closing credits of the show, sort of dancing counterclockwise with each other, kind of eyeing each other, checking each other out, and establishing their own ground rules. And are you saying that you eventually? Yeah, he says eventually that you'll find a way to establish those same kinds of ground rules with your housemate cat that he did with his housemate cat. Okay. Now, okay. Any other questions? Caller in? No. Okay. So she's fine with that. She'll continue to do what she's doing, and if she has any other questions, she'll let you know. Thanks. Bye-bye. It was, wasn't it? Okay. Microphone or lapel microphone or no lapel microphone, his ears are twitching, and his whiskers are twitching too. Okay. Okay. Oh, another caller in. Okay. Hello, Basil BuddhaCat presents. Oh, okay. Basil, it's in fact a peacock calling in. Okay. Can you tell us your name? Peacock's name is Pete. Okay. Okay, Pete does not have a question. He has a remark to add in the discussion of animal dominance and, if you will, pecking order. And he's making careful note of the fact that you won't be pecking anybody anytime soon. Basil says, I don't care. You won't be clawing anybody anytime soon either. Okay, so let's establish that as a standoff. Now, do you have what's your anything else to add to your remarks? Okay, our caller in, Pete, says that he's not sure, but he knows his partner, Repeat, was dragged off. He's pretty sure by a coyote. There's some feathers left flying around and some no remains of the carcass, but he's pretty sure it was a coyote that got got his partner, repeat. Says he wants to know once and for all if coyotes are more closely related to cats or to dogs. Okay, Basil's saying that that coyotes are in no way, shape, or form related to cats. As a matter of fact, Basil's saying that he's going to add that wolves, not cats, dogs. Saying lions, actually. Lions, tigers, cheetahs, ocelots, pumas are not really actually directly genetically related to cats. He says that they're just normal Earth-developed species, whereas cats, as we well noted in the show we did with Marty Heiser, we talked a little bit about the Egyptians and their worship of cats. And are you standing by your story on that, Basil? Basil's going to stick by his guns on that one, no pun intended, and no violence intended either. But Basil says he's sticking by his word on that, is that he believes very thoroughly that his ancestors came from somewhere else, either within or without the galaxy, came to Earth. This is why the Egyptians worshipped them. They helped the Egyptians build the pyramids. They gave them all the technological skills necessary to augment their physical strength. And they helped the Egyptians out. They established the Egyptians as for quite a few millennia, a very superior force on Earth in terms of their they stood their ground. They kept a lot of North Africa in their realm, parts of what we now know as the Middle East, had some great trading encounters with the Roman Empire, and that's it. But Basil's saying that those were where his ancestors came from. And if you want to check it out, you just need to take a look at the hieroglyphs and the carvings in the pyramids, on the pyramids in Egypt. And those are his peeps. Peeps. Basil says, yeah, could have used a better choice of word probably, but those are his folks, and he thinks that to some degree, present company excluded, to some degree, cats have kind of gone downhill a little bit in some respects, only because they become too reliant on humans and they've spent a little bit too much time watching this inferior species known as a Homo erectus. So, okay. Well, let's. On that note, we're going to have to end our Friday night show, and we'll come back and we'll do a Sunday morning show, perhaps a little bit more of a religious theme to it. And Basil will take some more calls. And this has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson, Basil's co-host, interpreter, and chief gopher. Good night.
They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street. And Pharma Oil and their pet fox don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, Meow.